Hello, everyone, and welcome to Innovation Lab, your go-to resource for all things biotech startups. Brought to you by the National Cancer Institute's Small Business Innovation Research, or SBIR, Development Center. Our podcast hosts interviews with successful entrepreneurs and provides resources for small businesses looking to take their cutting-edge cancer solutions from lab to market. I'm Dr. Monique Pond, a program director and team lead here at NCI-SBIR, and I'll be today's host. Today, we'll discuss a typical timeline for applicants from submitting their SBIR STTR application to hopefully successfully receiving an award. Once again, we're joined by my fellow program director and team leader at the NCI-SBIR Development Center, Dr. Jonathan Francoco. Welcome back, Johnny.
Thanks, Monique. Happy to be here.
So for people listening in today, before applying for SBIR STTR funding, what does an applicant need to do?
As we discussed in the previous podcast episode, one of the first things you should do is contact a program director in our office, and we'd be happy to walk through the process with you. One of the first things you need to do is complete your company registrations. Here, there are 4 registrations that need to be completed. These are the SAM, or System for Award Management. This is the electronic platform that is required for a company to do business with the US government. Second is ERA Commons. This is the electronic system required to do business with the NIH. And then the other 2 are grants.gov, which is a platform you will use to submit grant applications. And then finally, register with the SBA, Small Business Administration. And this is required for companies to participate in SBIR and STTR funding programs. So while the number of applications has gone down, it still needs to be taken care of well in advance of submitting your application, because it can take 6 weeks or more to complete these registration steps. And there's also the order in which you do so is important. First up is System for Award Management, SAM. You need to complete your SAM registration in order to then go on and complete the other registrations. This can take 3 weeks or sometimes longer to do an initial registration. And this is one that requires yearly renewal as well. So even if you've received a SAM registration in the past, make sure it's current if you are thinking of submitting an application in the near future.
That's a good point, Johnny. And I would say for those who have happily been awarded, that's something to keep in mind too for the future, that if you have a multi-year award, you want to make sure that you're keeping up with that SAM registration so you can progress to the next year of funding. So that's where companies and entrepreneurs should start, SAM registration, okay?
Yeah, and then you complete your SAM registration and you receive what's called a Unique Entity Identifier, or UEI. Now, once your SAM registration is approved and active, next step is to register with grants.gov. Grants.gov is the platform you will use to submit your application. Once you have your SAM registration, you can then go ahead and register for that. And this takes about 1 business day or more. It can depend a little bit, but not as long as SAM.
So is this the same grants.gov where people can go if they're interested in just kind of doing a federal-wide search for different grant funding opportunities?
Yes, so the grants.gov is not an NIH-specific platform. It's a federal-wide portal, which you can use to look for funding opportunities as well as apply for federal grant funding. Next up, once you've received your unique identifier, UEI number from SAM, you may then go ahead and apply for your ERA Commons. You as an individual may already have an ERA ID and account, but your company needs its own account to do business with the NIH. And registering for a new company in ERA Commons can take about 2 weeks or more. So make sure you do that ahead of time. The ERA Commons system allows you to submit and receive information regarding your application, and your ERA Commons credentials are also used to access what's called the ASSIST system, which is NIH's online system that can help streamline your grant submission.
So with an ERA Commons account, is there just one person for each company that's associated with the account, or could there be multiple people that have different roles and still have the same ERA Commons ID?
Excellent question. So with the new company registration, you need to identify a company signing official. And this will be the person that has the authority to represent the company, the institution, in grants administration matters. It's also important to remember that you may have your unique ERA Commons ID, but that same ID can be used to access different roles and also different affiliations. So you shouldn't have to create different ERA Commons IDs for yourself as an individual over the course of your career. You stick with the same one, but you manage that account by adding either different roles for that account and different affiliations. So perhaps you have both a university and an affiliation with a company. You can make sure to add both of those roles to your account. You need to be affiliated with the institution that you're representing to be on that application.
And, I just wanted to add to sometimes, depending on the company structure and how busy, the PI is, sometimes the PI is the signing official, but you could also have, for an example, an optional account administrator that has access and is a signing official for that ERA Commons and company account.
Yes. And then last but not least, the final registration is with the Small Business Administration, SBA company registry. Once you complete the SAM registration, you can go ahead and do this. And this takes 1 to 2 business days to complete. And this registration is required in order for a company to participate in SBIR and STTR funding programs.
So it sounds like for a company interested in applying to an upcoming due date, starting the earlier the better, right, with these registrations, since they can take sounds like several weeks, maybe even a couple months to get through all 4.
Absolutely. And they need to be completed to submit the application.
Thanks, Johnny. That's been a great summary of the 4 registrations that are required for companies. And for those who want more details or want some links to go ahead and get those started, you can go to seed.nih.gov and find links to all 4 of the registrations that Johnny just mentioned. So now the company's completed the registrations. They've talked to a program director, developed a great specific aims page, submitted their grant application. So what happens next, Johnny?
Once you've submitted your application, hopefully it all went smoothly and you didn't receive any messages indicating a problem with the application, in which case you can sit tight and wait for the review to take place. However, it's quite common that you will receive an email indicating that there either are errors or warnings associated with your application. In the case of a warning, that is something the system has identified that it wants you to double check or take a look at. If you receive an error warning on your application, the application will still be processed. However, you should take steps to identify what these warnings are and make sure that everything's fine. If you receive an error message, this is an indication that your application will not be processed as submitted. And so you will need to take steps to correct that error. Now, as program directors, we're not able to help you correct most of these errors. You need to contact either the ERA or grants.gov help desk, which you can find on their websites. And here they have excellent technical support to help you both understand what the problem is and correct the issue.
Yes, I think, within the 2 or 3 days right before due date, those help desks, as you can imagine, are quite busy. But, if you're able to start the application, say a week before the deadline, and you encounter some of these errors that Johnny mentioned, I think, that can be a great time to reach out to the help desk and someone will be able to walk you through the solutions to them.
Yes, that's another reason we always recommend applying early, because you never know what to expect.
All right, so let's say a company now has their application error-free through the system, and about how long should they expect, timeline-wise, before the review will take place?
Once you've applied and the application has been accepted, it'll next be sent for review. And the review will take place about 2 months after the application is submitted. Following review, you'll receive a score. This will either be a number indicating how well the application is scored, or potentially it could receive what's called a non-discussed score. That means, unfortunately, your application in this case was considered to be in the lower half of applications. However, this is just your initial idea of how well the application did. You really want to know the details, what reviewers thought, what the comments were, what they thought the strengths and weaknesses of the application were. And you'll get this in a document called the summary statement, which is released a couple of weeks after review has taken place. And this will be a summary of the reviewer comments, as well as a synopsis of the discussion that occurred at review. And once you receive the summary statement, this is actually the best time to then follow up with your assigned program director to discuss what the chances of success are for funding the application. And if not, what are the next steps in terms of potential resubmitting? How would you go about addressing the weaknesses that have been identified?
And I just want to add that as far as the full summary statement with the comments that Johnny mentioned, that can be up to 30 days after that review meeting before that full summary statement is available. But once a company or an applicant can see that in their ERA Commons account and has access to that full summary statement, then that assigned program director on the first page in the upper left-hand corner, you'll have that contact information, and that program director will have access to those same comments. So great time to reach out. We're always happy to set up a meeting and talk about your summary statement. So I think we've gone through, getting started with the company registrations, first steps to applying for the grant, and kind of a general timeline for review, and then follow up, hopefully, with a successful score, and discussing with a program director either potential funding opportunity or, as you mentioned, resubmission. Thanks again, Johnny, for speaking with us today. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Monique. Glad to be back.
As always, don't forget to check out our website, sbir.cancer.gov, for the latest funding opportunities and commercialization resources to support your journey from lab to market. This was Monique Pond from NCI SBIR. Please join us again for the next installment of NCI SBIR Innovation Lab, and subscribe today wherever you listen. If you have questions about cancer or comments about this podcast, you can email us at nci.info@nih.gov or call at 800-422-6237. And please be sure to mention Innovation Lab in your query. We are a production of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, National Institutes of Health, National Cancer Institute. Thanks for listening.